This is Lorenzo, and this is the Training Space Taxonomy video series lesson number 4. It's on our training tactics. This is the last 3 of the 9 facets that you need to know about in order to make the most of this taxonomy. It's also the last framework that actually makes up the matrix of this taxonomy. Now, why is that important? Well, this matrix is going to help you to evaluate any piece of equipment that you're thinking of buying or when you're setting up your home gym. For example, the first question you want to ask yourself before you buy any piece of equipment is, where does it fit into my life? Is it going to be used in a fixed stationary zone, an open floor zone? Is it an accessory? Number 2, the next thing you want to know are what are the most important specs I need to pay attention to that makes this equipment worthwhile. Number 1, what's its function? What is this thing made for? Number 2, what's its structures? Meaning, what's the dimensions, the materials, the weight of this piece of equipment? And thirdly, what's its compatibility with other pieces of equipment? Because it has to play well with other pieces of equipment in your home gym. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, you need a framework that's going to help you ask the question, how many exercises can you actually do on this piece of equipment? There's nothing worse than spending thousands of dollars on a piece of equipment that only allows you to do like one exercise. So let's go ahead now and see how I define each of these facets and how it all comes together into a matrix that serves as a framework that you will use to evaluate the value of any piece of equipment. Let's go. So for our first training tactic domain definition, we have equipment spaces, as we saw. This is exploring the spatial material category of each equipment item. Each piece of equipment is going to go either into the fixed training zone, it's going to be in an open floor training zone, or we're going to classify it as an accessory. Next, we want to look at the specifications of each equipment item. In other words, what is its main function? What are the materials, dimensions, and weight of each piece of equipment? And what's the compatibility with this piece of equipment with other pieces of equipment that we're considering? Next, we have our exercise options. What are the primary use cases as well as the secondary use cases for each equipment item? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at an example of how to apply these different facets in a real world scenario. So looking at the Training Space Taxonomy PDF, remember to download it if you haven't done so already. As a quick review, the very first lesson was an introduction to all 9 facets. Lesson number 2 was on the equipment space facets. The last video was on the routine exercises. You guys are watching this video right now. As we can see, the colors do correspond. So the equipment space in red, specifications guide in green, and exercise options in blue. The 3 facets of our training tactics is what makes up our matrix. As we can see, equipment space, specifications guide, and for our exercise options, we have it right there. Right below our training tactics facets, we have our stationary zones in pink. For our first example, we have stall bars, which goes in the stationary zones category. This is only one example of 11 that we will explore. Now, as you probably already saw to the right, we have our specifications guide for the stall bar. So what's the utility for the stall bar? Well, it's for core training and pull training support. In terms of our specifications, we want to look at 3 things: material, dimensions, and weight. And as for our compatibility, we also want to look at 3 things. Where do we use it? Well, it's going to be in the stall bar zone, stationary zones. Can we pair this piece of equipment with other pieces of equipment? Yes. We've got a rung pad. We have rings that we can suspend from the stall bar. And of course, a mat that we like to place right in front of it. And where do we store it? Well, because it's a fixed stationary zone piece of equipment, it's stationed in a fixed position. To the right of our matrix, right next to our specifications guide, we have our exercise options. This is asking the question, what are the primary and secondary use cases for the stall bar? They are the primary use case. It's literally the hanging leg raise as a strength training exercise. So if it's yellow, it's strength or power. If it's orange, it means it's a stability exercise. If it's red, it means it's a mobility exercise. We can see the primary exercises represent a great mix of exercises. Now, if you guys have watched the training routines taxonomy video series, you will know that these exercises form part of the race track routine, the lean track routine, the pull track routine, the bridge track routine. And finally, if these exercises represent the primary use case, then the active hang and pull-ups would be the secondary or substitutional use case for the stall bars. Because even though you can do pull-ups on the stall bars, the best place to do pull-ups, in my opinion, will be on the rings. And so while we can do these exercises on the stall bar, these exercises represent the primary use case for our stall bars. Okay, so now that we understand how all of these 9 facets come together to create our training tactics matrix framework, for the next 12 lessons, we will use this training tactics matrix or framework to help us evaluate, number 1, our open training zone, and number 2, 11 pieces of equipment that will serve as the foundation for your home gym. Let's get started.